2. The evidence, both physical and circumstantial. Hi, my name is Dennis Galen Michik, and we're back again with part 2 of 9/11, the truth of the matter. And now we'd like to talk about the physical evidence and the circumstantial evidence for the claim that 9/11 was an inside job. So, the scientific arguments first. So the questioner says, I have limited scientific background or education. I was hoping that you could explain in as simple and clear language as possible the key scientific arguments supporting the claim that 9/11 was an inside job. So let's do that. And there's a saying that a picture's worth 1,000 words. So I'd like to start this discussion with a picture of the World Trade Center as it was under construction. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about the irrefutable physical evidence that the World Trade Center, both towers and Building 7, were all brought down through controlled demolition, which means pre-planned, pre-planted demolition, the way buildings are demolished. You've seen, I'm sure, hundreds of times, you've seen pictures of controlled demolitions where buildings fall straight down at free fall speed. So let's take a look at the World Trade Center as it was constructed. Before we go there, let me just mention two things. The World Trade Center, when it was built, the towers were the tallest building in the world. They were the tallest building in the world, and they were unique construction. The people that have woven the story about the fire collapse caused the collapse and the airplanes caused the collapse, they have outright lied about how the towers were constructed. So let's go take a look at that, how the towers were constructed, and we'll talk about the lies that were told and the truth that the picture will reveal. Let's go take a look at that picture. What you're seeing here is a photograph of the tower, one of the World Trade Center towers under construction. Now from this photograph I'd like to point out several things. You can see very clearly in the center of this photograph the core columns. There were 47 of them, and these columns are massive. They are anchored 7 floors underneath this building, and they are comprised of 5-inch thick plate steel, and they are welded together in such a way that this makes up one continuous piece of steel from ground, 7 floors underneath, up to the top of the buildings. And it tapered slightly as it went. At the very bedrock of the building, it was 52 inches by 22 inches exterior dimension, and then it tapered up as it went up. But these 47 of them, and you can see them here, 47 columns were extensively cross-braced. These 47 core columns supported just over half the weight of the floors, which you can see right here. The other half the weight of the floors, slightly less than half the weight of the floors, was supported by these exterior columns, which were 60 on a side, so 240 of those. And these, you can see, are very small little exterior columns. These interior core columns would stand if this exterior column and the floors were taken away. This would stand up all by itself. And not only would it stand up by itself, it can support half the weight of the floors. So these core columns were not damaged by the airplane. They could not possibly have been damaged by that airplane. These are massive. Jet fuel would not touch these things. Jet fuel only burns at roughly half the temperature required to melt steel anyway, and there was ample evidence of melted steel. So you need to explain the melted steel. Jet fuel doesn't do it. It doesn't burn nearly hot enough, even by the government's own admission. So that's the thing I want you to see from this building. There were these relatively thin 240 exterior columns, and those were the columns that the airplane punctured. These columns were designed, the exterior columns, here's a little better picture of those. Let's pause for a second here. Can you get a shot of it? So here are the exterior columns, and you can see they were manufactured in where there are 3 columns per panel for not a terribly great distance, and they were manufactured that way. And then these were bolted together and welded together, and they were done so in a fashion such that a 707, which is the largest airplane at the time the building was built, not one but two 707s, which is the same size as the planes that did hit the building, roughly the same dimensions, carries about the same amount of fuel. That was designed to allow two 707s to hit this building without the building collapsing. And the reason is that the planes would punch through this exterior column without affecting the interior column, and the load of these exterior columns would be picked up by the other undamaged columns around the exterior. It was like a screen door. You could poke a hole in it and it wouldn't destroy the integrity, the ability of the building to stand. And the key thing here again is these 47 massive steel columns in the center. So look at this picture here. That very solid structure we showed you earlier, literally on 9/11, is turned to dust. Here's the building is right in there. Now what you'll observe is you'll observe several things. That concrete that went into the building is all dust, and it's in midair. Concrete does not turn to dust in midair. This is the concrete dust. What you'll see over here, this is steel. This is construction grade steel. Those are 30-foot lengths of I-beams being ejected horizontally hundreds of feet away from the building. That requires energy. So these little toothpick-looking things, that's 30-foot long steel I-beams. These weigh tons each, and they're literally being thrown away from the building. That takes energy. What you can't quite see from this picture, but you can imply this picture was taken 10 seconds after the start of the collapse of the North Tower. And so the fact that the tower's in 10 seconds gone, it fell at virtually free fall speed. Free fall speed in a vacuum would be 9.23 seconds. Free fall speed in air around about 10. So here's around about 10 seconds. We don't even see the building. It's just a cloud of dust, a pyroclastic cloud, and steel I-beams being shot hundreds of feet. So let's take a look specifically now at. So again, this building, you're expected to believe, because it was hit by an airplane with 10,000 gallons of jet fuel, effectively disappeared. That turned into this. This thing weighed 500,000 tons. 500,000 tons of concrete and steel, dry weight, without the furniture and everything. That just doesn't turn to dust. It needs explosives. So what are all the things you want scientific evidence to cut steel? So let's look at why I say that the World Trade Center towers collapsed in fashion totally consistent with controlled demolition. The onset was sudden. The buildings were standing, the fire was going out, just all of a sudden, boom, they fell straight down. They fell straight down. They fell at virtual free fall speed. Well, there's a problem with that. The only way something can fall at free fall speed is if it is indeed in free fall. And the only way something can be in free fall if there's nothing below it that's stopping it from falling. That is a characteristic that's consistent with all controlled demolitions, but it's not consistent with any falling building that we would observe in the real world. It's not a controlled demolition.